Hello, property nomads. Hope you're well. Is a new housing crisis brewing in Spain? It's a good question. What I will say is this also can be applicable to the UK and most of the world at the moment, not just Spain, but this article written via nakedcapitalism.com is on Zero Hedge. And it's quite an interesting read because although this is happening in Spain, it could also be happening a lot closer to your home as well. So it's no surprise that at the moment, what's been going on, bit of a pandemic a few years ago, people locked down, currency just being printed left, right, and centre, increase in the supply of currency, but chasing the same amount or fewer levels of goods and services. Voila, we have inflation. There's other reasons for inflation as well. And then in order to compound that misery, we've had NATO and the West that have kept prodding Russia. Russia has attacked Ukraine. And then, again, to further exacerbate that, European Union, the UK and other countries around the world have decided we've got to ban Russian goods and services as a result, and see how you like it, Russia. And then, funnily enough, actually that's affecting our own countries more than we would like to admit. Hey ho, fun times. Now, what I like about this article is that it's well written, but also we're seeing that there's a lot of blame going around already. And really the people that are doing the blaming are the people that should take the blame. But then again, that wouldn't be news, would it? Governments and politicians don't want to do that because that would not be favourable at all. So in Spain, the blame game's already gone in central government circles. Government's facing an uphill slog in next month's general elections in Spain. Mortgage costs are surging because interest rates are surging. And again, interest rates are surging because these classical economists, modern monetary theory people, central banks believe that the best way to tackle inflation is to increase the interest rates in order to cool down the economy. Thing with that is loads of people have been caught with their pants down because those on, for example, variable mortgages or tracker mortgages are now, they're the ones that are really being taken downtown big time with mortgage expenses. Also, those that are coming to an end of their fixed term have also been caught with their pants down. So there's two things on this. Number one, if you're on a variable and tracker mortgage in the first place and you weren't paying attention to everything that had gone on in the last 3 or 4 years, you really should, and it's easy to say in hindsight, but you really should take more interest in these sorts of videos, because once you understand what's happening and why it's happening, and then the likely outcome of that, you can then help to plan and prepare better. If you just have no interest in any of this stuff and you are constantly taken by surprise, especially in the last year or two of interest rate hikes, then you've not been paying attention. You need to take your time to pay more attention to these things, because a few years ago, you could have seen this coming down the line. I sit from a position that my business partner and I, we did see this coming down the line. We're on fixed terms. We're locked in for the next 3 or 4 years. We'll deal with it in 3 or 4 years' time. But we're fixed. We could see things happening a few years ago, and we dealt with it there and then. For those that have no interest, that didn't have a clue what was going on, that haven't learned from history, it's a bit too late now. The big challenge with what Spain is proposing, there's 2 things here. 2 interesting arguments. Number one, the consumer price index for Spain been clocking in recently about 3.5%. where the average for a lot of the EU is about 6%. There are certain countries that are above 10% within the EU at the moment. Of course, here in the UK, the most recent data was 8.7%. Again, what hasn't happened, and this is where the EU is going to get a lot of pain, is that all their interest rate hikes are affecting the whole of the EU. People have now come behind on their mortgages. This is what they're saying in Spain. This is what's happening. And, is that going to fuel a massive recession? If you look at a lot of data up and down around the world, a lot of graphs, a lot of data are pointing that there is a massive recession on the way, but we're just papering over the cracks at the moment. What doesn't help with Spain is it's already witnessed one of the most spectacular housing booms and busts of this century. So a lot of buying was happening in between 2003 2005. Even a family member of mine had purchased just before that, and then Lehman Brothers came around, and the GFC, and massive big ass recession, no bueno, as I would say. Things recovered somewhat, and then of course with all these pandemics in 2020, Spain's housing market is stalled. Now people are behind on their mortgages, and the reason why there's big issues in Spain is this line here, and this is quite the scariest line I think of the whole thing. The result is that roughly 4 million of Spain's 5.5 million mortgage holders have variable rate mortgages. Going on further, of those, just over 1 million qualify for the government's relief package. So it's two things here. Number one, why are so many people on variable rate mortgages in the first place? I'm not an expert on the Spanish mortgage market. I imagine the other 1.5 million people are on fixed mortgages. So if fixed mortgages are available in Spain, why weren't more people not on them? That doesn't quite make sense to me. But again, I'm approaching this from hindsight. Secondly, we can see that with Spain plopping in a government relief package, now you're just kicking the can further on down the road, because that in effect is another way to print currency to help people. The thing with inflation is once you get into that spiral, it's almost like a death spiral, but upwards, because the more you print, the more cash that people have, the better people feel, and you just keep going and 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 keep going until you get to a stage where you're going to end up like Zimbabwe, or everything completely breaks. So Spain's mortgage market is effectively cracked. They're one of the first European countries to introduce emergency measures, but in effect, what that is going to be doing is kicking the can further on down the road by providing relief to people on variable rate mortgages. And people, unfortunately, not just in Spain, when stuff like this happens, they rush to the government and expect the government to bail them out. Now, the challenge with that is if you're always expecting the government to bail you out, no one's ever going to learn the lesson. That's in Spain, that's worldwide. If the government's always bailing you out, you're never going to learn the lesson. Secondly, you always have to take action yourself in order to protect yourself, your friends, your family, your loved ones. So without naming names, I know back in late 2020, early 2021, I had a family member and a friend who were looking to purchase new homes for themselves. They came to me and asked what I thought about mortgages. Well, I'm not a mortgage broker, and I got them to speak to the right people. My advice was, we've been locked down. There's a lot of stimulus here in the UK. What's going to happen is further on down the line, interest rates are going to really ratchet up. If I was in your shoes, I would fix for 5 years, maybe 10 years. Now, those people have fixed for 5 years, so they're good until 2026. That's great. Will rates go back down by then? Probably not. But they haven't got the panic and the worry now that many people have. So what I would say to Spain's 4 million variable rate mortgage holders is, maybe in the last 3 or 4 years, because we've all got to take responsibility for where we are, what we stand for, what we're doing, maybe that might have been a very good time to have switched mortgages. And that advice applies anywhere in the world. So Spain is pretty much up crap creek without a paddle. Their housing market is slowly deteriorating. In the UK, we've got a bit of a correction going on as well. I'm not surprised. We should see this across the board, purely because that is what the graphs are telling us. All the macro data, the big data out there, that's what they're telling us. What doesn't help is when our central banks, so the Bank of England, ECB, are continuing to increase rates because they're looking in the rearview mirror. If you look at China's central bank, they've actually decreased their interest rate because they can see what's coming up. They understand that a big, nasty ass recession is on the way. That's why oil production has gone down as well. Output's gone down on that front because OPEC can see what's coming down the line. That's what's going on in Spain. Again, I really sincerely hope the government doesn't bail everyone out. The fact that someone, a work minister, Yolanda Diaz, has proposed issuing a one-off €1,000 bonus to all households with variable rate mortgages, as long as the loan is in its first 10 years of life and was issued for a primary residence worth up to 300,000. I don't know what the stats be on how many people that is, but if you then are giving everyone a €1,000 bonus, where on earth is that coming from? So I can guarantee you now that is not going to come from extra tax revenue. You are just printing and printing and printing and printing and printing. That's going to exacerbate the level of inflation, and you're just adding fuel to the fire. The thing is, with inflation, you get into this upward death spiral, and it really ends up being no bueno. So is a new housing crisis brewing in Spain? I would argue yes. I would also argue it's not just Spain, that there's going to be a lot of other places, countries around the world where a housing crisis is brewing. And why is it brewing? Because a lot of people have been caught with their pants down, and they're on the wrong type of mortgages, where, again, a few years ago, we all had loads of time during these lockdowns and so forth, where if we would have learned from history, understood what's gone on before, understood then how these big events would impact the currency printing, but also the interest rates moving forward, we could have planned better and been better, and not have been in the situation that a lot of people are finding themselves in. But these are things that you have to learn yourselves. This is why we do these videos, because we're here to help. We're here to provide as much as we can for you, so you can take this information and then share it with as many people as you can, because ultimately that helps everyone moving forward. Not everyone's going to do what we advise. In fact, we're not offering advice, we're just sharing our thoughts and opinions. But what is important, the one lesson to take away from this, is that you take action where you can take action, understand what's going on, understand what's happened before, learn from history. These cycles are normally quite similar, and just learn and take action. Really, that's all I can say to that. Is there a new housing crisis brewing in Spain? Well, by the looks of it and by the sounds of it, yes. Is there a housing crisis brewing full stop around the world? Certainly, I would say so from a UK point of view. And as with most things, it's going to get better. It's going to get worse, sorry, before it gets better. We cannot continue to rely on government to keep bailing us out. If we keep doing that, then we get into this upward death spiral. At some point, something's going to break, something's going to crash and burn. And when it happens, it's going to be incredibly nasty. So watch this space. If you're watching this on YouTube, press that like, subscribe button. That'd be great. And the notification bell so you can get notifications of when new video content comes out. If you listen to this on the podcast, then like and share the podcast with as many people as you can. It's important that we get this message out to as many people as we can, because we've got to take action. We've all got to become a bit more aware as in what is going on and why it's going on and what we can do to help combat that and protect ourselves. And we'll see you in the next video.